So there's that $600 new Gundam coming out. How about one for $12.99? So typically getting into Warhammer is the most exciting thing that can happen to a divorced dad. But this is actually the most exciting thing that has happened to me this year, this $12 Gundam right here. And that's because this is, I reached out to a model shop nearby, and actually they helped me out with the sponsorship of 2 kits. The new Gundam SD-EX Standard here. I've not ever done one of these EX Standards. I've done BB Senshi SDs, which are the older SD line. SD Gundams are super deformed Gundams, so they're small, big head. The older ones didn't even have a knee joint. They basically just had a foot that met at the waist, and they looked really goofy, and they had big eyeballs on them too, big cartoonish eyeballs. And then I've also done SD cross frame, where you have the choice to kind of make them a little bit taller or the stubbier BB Senshi proportions, and different eye options for the both. This line's really interesting. It started in 2016, and it's actually manufactured in China. It says right here on the box, but they do guarantee Bandai Hobby Center quality. So they're saying that even though this isn't out of Bandai Hobby Center in Japan, this is, you know, what you would expect from a Bandai kit, or is the promise here. Now, I've heard people complain that the quality is lower because these are made in China. I don't think that's the case here. These runners were really crisp. The detail's really nice. Everything is really nice on this kit. So there was a BB Senshi New Gundam that came out, you know, I mean, New Gundam is the most popular Gundam, I would say, next to Grandpa, the original RX-78. I'm not a huge Char's Counterattack fan, but I think New Gundam's kind of cool. I like it more than the Hi-Nu, I guess, but I like the colors of the Hi-Nu better. So I think I'm going to do this guy a soft purple where the black is and where the black should be here. As you can see, this is not my typical background here. This is my new airbrush setup. New as in, you know, quite new. There's some, you know, paint on here. I've painted a few things, primed a few things, but not really committed to a full kit yet. So just a reminder, this video is sponsored by Oriental Gifts. It's a downtown shop in Winnipeg. Actually, it's in a mall that's currently going through a renovation right now. If you're a Winnipegger, you absolutely know what mall that is. You know, there's a downtown revitalization effort that they're trying to do, because the mall is pretty rough and tough in a pretty rough location. But don't let that stop you, because the stores are all still there. Even though the mall is under construction, everything is still open for shopping. A really interesting selection there. So when you typically are browsing online or going to your local hobby shops, at least in Canada, you see a lot of the same selection because it's the stuff that's in print. And this guy does order stuff that's in print straight from Japan, by the way. So he's not going through the oh, it's like Suncoast or something. There's a Blue Sun, Blue Fish. There's a California distributor that like puts stickers on Gundams and redistributes them to Canada and America. But this guy gets his kits directly from Japan, so no weird stickers. But the interesting thing, and I'll put this on the screen, he had like a Master Grade Zeong there. An old Master Grade crossbone that wasn't a Verka. Some really interesting stuff that was red label and wasn't in print for a while. And I asked him where he got them, and he said they're out of his personal stash. He just pulls kits out sometimes and goes, "Oh wow, I still have this," and then puts it on his shelf in the store, which is really, really cool. So whenever I go there, I see a selection of stuff that I've not seen. And, you know, sometime in this video, I will maybe pull out all the kits that I've actually got from him, because I've actually bought a few kits there because I lived close by. last year, or actually up to the beginning of this year. So looking at the sticker sheet, you can see, you know, the unicorn logo is a sticker, but it has that white in the middle of it. So I could cut that white out and put it over my paint. But I think I might do a crazy thing and use this for masking, and then kind of like freehand slash mask, if that makes any sense. This little unicorn here. Maybe like paint this red and then put the sticker over it, and then do my white. And then hopefully when I peel that off, it'll be this shape, and then I can go in and do the white triangle in the middle and the green eye. The major goal, I keep going away from it, is to use this airbrush to do a glow effect. I did a pretty good gradient on another piece I was trying in this little kit that I was like trying little pieces on. Yeah, I think if I can paint these eyes green, and then since these are raised actually, I can go in and paint the rest black pretty easily once this is already green. And then I think either mask or just carefully airbrush the fluorescent green over it. And then kind of maybe like gradient that outwards a little bit onto the armor and onto the top of the V-fin here. And then dab it with a little bit of like a gradient white in the middle, or a very light green, to give that glow effect. But when I built this thing up, I was actually really impressed. I was excited that it came with the fins, because I know the entry grade does not come with the funnel fins. And that's probably because this gimmick here with the SDEX standard line is that you can use these with your high grades, which is very silly. This is not a sort of gun you would want to use on a high grade. But, you know, if that tracks, that means you could use a nice high grade high new gun on this. I just don't have a high new. I'm not a huge high new fan, like I said. It's not one of my favorites. But building this up, it actually made me really appreciate this guy and all of its little quirks and how different it is than the Grandpa, but like calling back to the Grandpa in a lot of ways, calling back to the ground Gundam even in some ways. I'm definitely going to watch Char's Counterattack while I work on this project again. I was going to catch it when it was in theaters a little while ago, and then I missed it. Just life stuff, you know. Can't always, you know, put your kids away and go see a movie, even if it's Char's Counterattack. I haven't decided for if the yellow I'm going to do gold, or if I'm just going to do a nice yellow for the V-fin. It almost does look gold on the box art, but I'm pretty sure that New Gundam doesn't have gold. This is all just yellow. It's just a kind of a very nice golden effect they have here. I will say not a huge fan of this CG render that they put on the box, but honestly the render might not be the issue. It might just be the very simple background. Maybe with like more of an Axis Char's Counterattack-y background, this would look very good. And I will also say, if you're interested in this line, they only put out about one a year now, maybe one every 2 years. It's a lot less than even the master grade SDs. I believe that these were originally made as starter kits for out of Japan markets, overseas markets, Chinese markets, things like that. And yeah, they are very cheap. They have a big turnaround. I'll mention too, this is all these pieces are sanded and washed because this was an insanely glossy kit out of the box. I had fingerprints all over it. If I tried to show this thing on camera, it would have been like my oily fingerprints all over the thing because it was so glossy. That's not a problem with the kit. I think if you're not painting this, it would look awesome how glossy it is out of box. It just needed a sanding for my purposes because this thing's going to get a layer of paint on it. And I was worried that the primer wouldn't even stick with how glossy it was. Or even if I washed the parts, I would immediately get, you know, fingerprints on it and handling them again. Whereas now with this little bit of grip, I think I went down to like an 800 grit, 1000 in some areas. It'll be a lot easier for primer to grip on here. I have a white lacquer primer I'm going to try through the airbrush. And I think I'll mix a little bit of either pink or green in with it. I haven't decided yet. Just so that when I go over with the white, it'll be a lot easier to see where I'm covering with the white, as opposed to if I primed white. And I think if I prime black, it might be a bit too hard to get that white back on the airbrush without doing too many layers. And I really want to avoid doing too many layers because I don't have a full handle over the airbrush yet. I'm still learning it and paint thinning for the airbrush and all that. So the last thing I want is to like pool a bunch of paint on a part because I'm getting, I'm trying to cover it too much. I haven't had that problem too much yet, except for on a few pieces. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. So I'll get back to you when I'm priming. All right, so I have this green custom primer. I have a white lacquered Gaia primer that I mixed with some Mr. Color Kawasaki green. That's a dark green Kawasaki 130 aircraft World War II. Now, I'm not a huge World War II buff, so I'm not too sure. When you look up Kawasaki green, you'll get all sorts of different greens. So this is this specific Kawasaki. I had some trouble getting this white Gaia primer through the airbrush before, and I really didn't realize how thin you need to thin your primers. You have to thin primer almost more than paint, which seems counterintuitive. You'd think you'd want your primer to be thicker to stick onto the part, but it will not go through the airbrush without proper thinning. So this is even maybe a little thick, but this has been sitting here for a bit. So I'll just add more thinner and get primer on all these parts and call it for now. So I went from least important pieces or least visible to most important. So inner arms and back of the skirt and things like that. From the cleaning process, I did get some running or squirting on the back skirt, which was my first piece, so that was disappointing. But since it is primer, I can just sand it off and smooth it out, and that's not much of an issue, especially with lacquer primer. And the head worked out spectacularly. I saved that for last. I was quite worried about the head clogging up or getting like an orange peely texture, very bumpy. But it seems like you can not really go too thin with your primer, as long as it's not literally running down the piece. Alright, so back at the desk here the next morning, I have the new Gundam here primed up. I mixed that white with a Kawasaki green. I had to remix the paint a few times, so it might be a little bit different shade on a few different pieces. I don't really think so. I think the black piece is inherently just primed a bit darker, so that's why it kind of looks like that. And honestly, this looks pretty cool. Like pea soup green primer. I figure that'll give me some wiggle room to see where I'm putting my white without really fighting against the primer color, like if I prime with black or a dark purple. I was considering maybe pink since I am going to paint the black parts light purple, but I think this green will work fine. Just some painting prep notes here. I was going to fill these backs with tin foil and then cover them up with putty, but I figured, you know what? This is not going to be the kit that I'm going to go for big, gap removal on, filling these. It's just, it's a quirk of these SD kits is sometimes they'll cut costs a little bit by just having it hollow from the back. And I mean, you're rarely looking at an SD from the back. The only thing is that this is a high nu, so you are probably going to be looking at those fin funnels. So would be nice. I could easily like glue a piece of plastic over that, but that was all a job for before the priming. The other thing too is this polycap material obviously does not hold paint. I knew this, but I didn't remove this polycap here before adding paint to it, so it is just coming off, but that's not a big deal. I'll like actually clean off that polycap so it doesn't look so weird. You can see it on that one too, on the elbow. And since there's a fair amount of work to be done on the head, especially on the eyes and the cameras and the V-fin and everything, I just made sure that this could easily be disassembled. So this is actually a pretty decent tip. Just cut off part of the hole here. Or you could even just cut off the pegs if you want. And by cutting that off, that just makes this slide apart easier, as well as I took off the peg of this red piece. And this will make painting really easy, and then I can just glue everything together when it's done. So yeah, don't be afraid to mutilate your pegs if you're just going to end up gluing before painting anyways. And yeah, so just going to work on probably the eyes first so that I can glue this head closed. And then work on everything else, and I can just put a piece of tape or even the sticker over that there and just mask that for now and call that a day. I had a few pieces where the primer came out a bit grainy. That might have been down to my air pressure, clogs in the airbrush, distance from the brush. There's quite a few factors, but I kind of went from least important to most important part. So by the time I got to the head, I got a really good handle of it. This is really nice, smooth and glossy. And honestly, since this is lacquer, I'm not afraid to go in and sand this with like a 1500 grit, maybe even up to 2000, and just, you know, really get a smooth prime surface on here. But yeah, that's the priming done. So yeah, I'll get back to you when I have a little bit more paint on this. So just some notes about the face here. I went and did this by hand. I went and did the eyes green, flat green, as well as the cameras. And then I covered them with the sticker. So what you're seeing there is not the green that I painted them. I painted the eyes green and the surrounding area black, and then I put the sticker over it, and then put the mask over the eyepiece. This is not glued shut yet. And I'm hoping that I can just pop the V-fin off, spray this all, the off-white that I'm going to use. And all I'll have to mask is this little tiny chin right here. I think I did decide on a gold instead of a yellow, since I kind of want to make this guy special. So I will, this is that stupid sticker that you wrap around. If you're really spending time applying it, it can be a nice sticker, but I think it's a lot better to just paint this front part here. So I have that masked. I'll paint this gold, and then peel that off and do this by hand. And the other thing I'm thinking about too is what sort of effect I'm going to pull off on the airbrush with this beam saber. It's a dual beam saber. There's a little beam coming out of the end here. But trying to get a gradient, yeah, and just thinking about the order of putting paint down is a problem that I'll have to solve. I mixed a custom white for the new Gundam using some AK green and Arial white. Just gonna clean up my hands, make sure I have everything ready, and I'll get all the white down on the parts and then the purple. And once I have a base coat down, I think I'll do most of the other things by hand, but I still really want to get that glowy eye and camera effect. The green was honestly a pretty good plan. I can see the white pretty well over it and see where I missed or not. As well as that green does give that little bit of that new typey glow effect to any more recessed places that the airbrush isn't really hitting. I'm really happy with the off-white color that I mixed too. Once it goes on the head, you start seeing just how nice this looks. And I don't really get an up-close shot, but you'll get a chance to see it right away. That's one thin layer, and I do end up going back with more layers on each piece off camera while I'm just listening to podcasts and stuff. So other than a few effects like the beam saber and maybe touching up the V-fins a bit, as well as the eye glow, I think that's about all I'm going to do with the airbrush here, other than hit it with the top coat. I'm really happy with how this white came out. It's a very lightish green, and the green primer underneath does help. Like, you can see it peeking through in some spots. The weird thing here, it looks like I was just really lackadaisical with the airbrush, but there is actually a gradient on the high new Verka with the purple on there. I'll bring it up. So I'm trying to figure out a way to emulate that. But yeah, I'm going to top coat this and then add some decals and panel line and detail paint. Most of that'll be by hand, since that's what I'm comfortable with, and I don't want to do excessive masking just to paint one part. And I don't really know what I was thinking with masking the eyes. I was thinking I was going to paint the whole head as one, so it was uniform, but even separated, it's a really nice uniform white. I'm not too worried about the seam line once I do push this together and glue it. Because yeah, it does kind of look like a panel line. Maybe up here, it's not the best, but oh well. I am going to do gold on the V-fin. I haven't done that yet, but I'll mask this off. And then hit all that, as well as formulate a plan for the beam saber on the airbrush. But yeah, there's a lot of little tiny details, little purple stuff on the feet they'll add, the gold on the vents, and then I'll panel line it, the V-fin, or the V insignia on the crotch there. But overall, really sweet. Really happy with how this looks so far. The only piece out of all the pieces that I got any pooling on was the shield, unfortunately, and it still feels very smooth, so I think once I decal and weather over this and everything, I'm not too worried about it. But it is weird that, like, I was most worried about the head and the rounded parts, but flat parts are always so killer. And I thought I had my paint thin properly. I even sanded this piece a bit, but alas. Luckily, usually when you get pooling with a brush, it does add inherent texture, but there's so little paint coming out of the airbrush that even when it does pool, just is kind of settling into something very fine. The purple as well, I tried mixing the Magos purple, I believe, from Citadel with the Arial white. And the Arial white started like splitting up into like black particles. It was really weird. I did eventually get it mixed and get it through the airbrush, and this is the result. It was a little problematic. I had to clean the brush one time, as well as I scuffed that a little bit, just like, I guess, connecting the piece back on too early, just to see how it all looked together. But that's an easy touch-up. So really, yeah, just figuring out the thinning of paints, the proportion, as well as the cleaning, the distance from the part, and the pressure are all things that, I just need to do until they become second nature. But getting this white down was a lot less scary than I thought it'd be, so that's nice. But this really does need a top coat because it feels like acrylic paint to touch. So I don't want to be scuffing stuff off. It scratches off very easily on like lacquer, comes off on your fingers and stuff. So I was wearing gloves in the airbrush setup when I very rarely do, just because I really didn't want this like very off-white to get too nasty. So yeah, I figured this has gone on a little bit longer than I expected for an SD Gundam. So I'm going to split it into the detail painting and the slight weathering and the panel lining, decals and all that, the beam saber and the gun and all the finishing next time. But yeah, I just want to thank Oriental Gifts again for the sponsorship. This is such a sweet little kit and really, really emblematic of just, yeah, how awesome Gundam is, how much fun it is to paint. I am not a huge Char's Counterattack fan, but before the next video, I'm gonna watch it and then we'll talk about it. And yeah, it's just so interesting to get paint on one of these things and then start to really like the design, like the way it goes together, all the little quirks. And this white is so satisfying for me because, yeah, hand painting white was a big frustration for me in the past. So if I can even just get white base coats down with an airbrush, that's enough for me and that makes me happy. I think making sure that primer was all smoothed out before I got the paint on was really necessary. Any of these bumpy bits that were bumpy before when I primed, I made sure were smooth because I think that definitely would have shown through the paint. So I have this guy to finish up, and Oriental Gifts also sponsored me with a high-grade kit that I'll work on in a different series. Really excited to show you guys that. It's actually a really cool one. If you're in Winnipeg or in the Winnipeg area or visiting, check them out. It's right downtown in Portage Place. Really, really nice selection there. Stuff straight from Japan, stuff out of print. Some one-piece kits, some Patlabor kits, Evangelion kits, some interesting stuff there. I've seen Transformers kits there a few times. When I was looking around at relative prices for this guy, at least in Canada, you really can't get this guy any cheaper. And that's a thing that I'll say too, is that it seems like his prices have kind of trended downwards in the last year, where you can actually expect to find kits for a pretty good price there. Especially some stuff that you might have to pay an arm and a leg for if it's not in print. That's actually where I found a lot of my red label kits, my master grade gun cannon. Yeah, a lot of other kits that I really like that I'll pull out when I do the next video, and maybe I'll start the sponsorship with that. All right, if you have any slight airbrushing tips, paint mixing tips, stuff like that, let me know. Or if you have any thoughts on Char's Counterattack that you want me to talk about, I'll read your comment because I'm going to watch the video and we'll do a little discussion on it and my feelings on it next time. All right, thanks for watching. Thanks to Oriental Gifts in Winnipeg for the kit. Everyone take care.